What's up, you guys? So I was recently scrolling through Twitter, just kind of catching up on the news, and that's pretty much where I get all my news from. I don't really watch too much TV these days, and I came across a post that really opened my mind up to something, and I wanted to make this video and share it with you guys because it's something that I never really thought of, or maybe I did, and I just didn't actively think about it and realize how good of a financial hack this actually is. So I want to share it with you guys. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So let's say you have some money set aside in savings, right? Maybe you have an emergency fund or, a few grand, or maybe you have investments, in another account that you have. And it's kind of just sitting there. Maybe it's earning interest or you're earning some dividend income, whatever the case may be, right? And then an emergency pops up and you decide that you want to dip into that savings or those investments. Don't do that. And here's the financial hack that I learned that really opened my mind up is what if you didn't have that? What if you didn't have that savings or those investments set aside and this emergency popped up? What would you do? Would you just cease to exist and not be able to take care of it and just crumble, or would you figure it out? The answer is you'd figure it out, right? Like life goes on, you'd work more, you'd cut back on some expenses, you'd figure it out. You always did, and you always will. So, the financial hack that I learned is that even if you have savings or investments, never touch it. Literally, never touch it. It should be a security blanket and provide you with peace of mind knowing that it's there, but never actually tap into your savings or your investments. And rather than doing that, you will figure it out. Again, you can work more, you can cut back on expenses, you can sell something. So when these emergencies pop up, rather than just using the money you have saved to take care of it and moving on, take a second and think, what would I do if I didn't have this money in savings or if I didn't have these investments on the side? And then how would you handle it? You may not know the answer right away, but you'd still figure it out. Life goes on. You'd have to figure it out. If that involves even cutting back on your rent or getting a roommate or selling your car and using public transportation, like these are drastic measures, and oftentimes you won't need to make a move that drastic, but there's still options. And it may come down to that. And, you got to do what you got to do. But I think, pretending that you don't have that money set aside in savings or those investments set aside and just figuring out whatever issues or inconveniences you have as if you have no money on the side, I think that's the way to go, because then you're never stepping back financially, right? Like if an emergency comes up and you have to make some sacrifices and cut expenses, like yeah, it sucks and it's you know it may feel kind of crappy at the time, but you're never actually going backwards financially. When it comes to your net worth, you're never taking your savings or your investments and liquidating them and then using that to take care of whatever's happening. Like, as long as you don't dip into your savings and don't use your investments, you're always moving forward. Or at worst, you're staying stagnant, which is not ideal, but it's better than taking a step back financially when it comes to your net worth. So I think this is a fantastic financial hack and a financial sort of tip, if you will, is to just literally never touch your savings, never touch your investments, and you will never go backwards financially. Like I said, you may have to pause investing and pause savings for a while you use your disposable income to take care of your fridge that broke, or maybe your transmission blew and you have to replace that, or maybe you have to pay for moving expenses. Like whatever the case may be, whatever life throws at you, figure it out without using your savings or your investments, and you will continue to progress forward. I feel like I've thought about this in the past, but I never really like actively thought about it. And I saw this post on Twitter that just explained it perfectly in like 3 sentences, and I was like, holy shit, that's a really good point. Like, what if I didn't have money set aside? What if I didn't have savings? What if I didn't have investments? Like, how would I replace my brakes, or how would I pay for moving costs? And I'm like, well, if I didn't have that money, I'd still figure it out, right? Like life goes on. I would figure it out. So just if and when those things do come up, rather than using my savings or my investments, just figure it out. I'll just figure it out. And that's, I think, a great overarching rule to live by, financially speaking, in order to continue to progress forward. And I think if you do this and you, even when inconveniences and problems and expenses don't pop up, I think if you act like you're broke and like you have no extra money, like you're just setting yourself up to be more successful and be prepared when these things do come up. And it kind of keeps you, grounded and humble throughout life. Because then if you're acting like you're broke all the time and you're not tapping into your savings when things come up, rather you're just trying to figure it out when these things do come up, I think it kind of keeps you grounded. And that's always in the back of your mind, like shit can and will happen. So let me just, not overspend on things. Let me not go on this super expensive vacation. Maybe I'll go on a cheaper one. Maybe I'll get the cheaper car than the one that I really want. And then with all that being said, knowing that you have savings and investments elsewhere, it just provides you with like a mental security blanket, knowing that God forbid, worst case scenario, shit hits the fan, you do have that to fall back on as an absolute last option and last resource. It just makes you feel a little bit more comfortable as you go through life. But again, just pretending it's not there and figuring shit out throughout life is a great way to continue to progress forward. But if every time something happens, you're tapping into your savings or liquidating assets to pay for it, you're just kind of slowing down your progress toward achieving financial freedom. So I think if you can, treat yourself like you don't have savings and investments, even if you do, I think it's going to really help you stay humbled, grounded, spend money on things that you genuinely need rather than what you want. And I'm not saying to never spend money on things you want. I'm not saying to never go out to eat or anything like that. Like, as long as you can fit that in your budget while you're saving and investing and paying your bills, like that's fantastic. But when these emergencies pop up, you know, figuring it out rather than just falling right back onto your savings and investments right away and paying for it. I don't know. I feel like it's worth at least trying to figure it out rather than liquidating assets or tapping into your emergency fund or whatever the case may be. So I don't know. When I read this post, it really kind of opened my eyes. I was like, holy shit, this is a good idea. Like, because either way, if you had savings or you didn't, you'd figure it out. So why not just act like you don't have savings and figure it out so that you don't use your extra money or use your assets that are working for you. So I definitely just, I like this post. It really opened my eyes to some things and I wanted to share it with you guys. I feel like I was jumping around a little bit during this video. So if it didn't make sense, I'm, sorry. But I don't know. I wanted to share this with you guys. It was pretty cool post. And I like the idea behind it. So that's all I got for you guys today. I appreciate you checking in with me. For those who are new here, I post content about personal finance, life experiences, really just anything that I like to talk about while I'm gaming. So I post every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, and then on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern time. If you like this kind of content, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.